I'm Mike Weir, Chief Revenue Officer at GTM, the world's largest and most trusted software marketplace. And welcome to Go-to-Market Innovators, the series where we sit down with B2B revenue and marketing leaders to learn about the successes they've had, the challenges they've faced, and how they've used technology to create an aligned sales and marketing organization to drive their businesses forward.
Welcome, everybody. Today we are joined by Kurt Leafstrand. He is the Senior Vice President of Product at Clari, which is known for their market-leading revenue platform. Kurt has been passionate about building great products ever since he was a teenager, and he brings over 20 years of technology and product development experience to Clari. His impressive resume prior to this includes being a member of the product team at Clearwell Systems, the e-discovery company that was acquired by Symantec. He served as a director of product at Emtoris, which was acquired by IBM. Before that, he was working as a consultant at McKinsey, has graduated from MIT. He has founded and led the Forge Software Corporation through its eventual sale. And he is somebody that has developed one of the first B2B e-commerce applications in the early days of the web. So, Kurt, you have seen a lot. You have been through a lot. I cannot wait to learn from you on the history lesson, but also the future, because I think what you're directly involved in building is so important, and I think just additive to what we talk about on this program all the time. It's how does marketing and sales get really aligned to create an amazing business outcome, and what role does tech specifically play within that? And so I'd love to start with that broad perspective, that knowledge that you have to impart on all of us. As part of the 10-year journey you've been on with Clari, you have the unique advantage of hearing from 600 plus CROs around the world to really understand what's working and not working. From these conversations, what can you share with us about what you've seen in the sales and marketing alignment and how the CRO role is evolving from 10 years ago versus 5 years ago versus today?
Yeah. Great question. So thanks for having me. Honored to be here and to be a guest. So it's been a whirlwind, but it's also been a long journey over the last 10 years. So thought it would be start by just recapping what that looked like and what we've learned. So enterprise software as a multiple time product leader is a long journey. And the reason why is because it takes a long time to really learn and understand what's going on with your users, with your customers. And, when we got Clari started, the first 6 months to a year was spent in pretty deep conversation trying to understand, coming out of our previous company, which had really focused around enterprise search for legal and regulatory requests. We were looking at potentially doing enterprise search in the cloud, started doing a whole bunch of interviews, and kept hearing from folks, that's kind of interesting, but first you should talk to my sales team because they really have a bunch of problems around knowledge management, around kind of search and finding collateral and battle cards, all that kind of stuff. So we started poking in that area. Might have actually gone and started a sales enablement company. But in a good 10 or 20 of those initial conversations, people kept saying, yeah, that's sort of an interesting problem, this kind of sales enablement thing. But first, I've really got to understand what's going on with my sales pipeline. Heard that a bunch of times. And we were like, wait, isn't that what Salesforce is doing? And people said, no, let me show you my spreadsheet. And if you're an entrepreneur, especially an enterprise software entrepreneur, whenever you hear spreadsheet, alarms start to go off because that generally shows that there's an unmet need around some kind of workflow. And so early part of the journey started looking at those spreadsheets on the sales side initially, and found that just, first of all, the data quality was terrible, that managers and execs weren't getting the feedback that they needed from their sales reps on the true state of their deals. And so kind of phase one of Clari for the first couple of years was actually a mobile-only app to try, and we called it, Andy, our CEO, would talk about the API into the brain of the sales rep. How do you connect into the sales rep to really understand what's going on? So we built that, and we're able to do a really good job of improving data quality about deals for managers. And then things kind of kept going up the hierarchy. Once we solved for the rep problem, we started working on that spreadsheet problem for managers, creating basically an Excel or Google Sheets that was live tied into the sales pipeline, tying in all the data from the rep, emails, calendar, data science scoring, so that managers could get a better handle on their pipeline. Then we went up another level. Execs and CROs would say, hey, wait, you've got this really good information from my reps. You've been able to help my managers do all of this good deal and pipeline inspection. Can you roll this up into a forecast? And we're like, okay, that's really the interesting problem. If we can take all of this and help the business at that strategic level understand whether they're going to hit their number, make better business decisions, then that's going to, really solve the problem. So we did that, and have been really successful at it. And I think we've helped some of the world's leading companies really improve how they manage revenue. But to your original question, there was more. And so we started to see, after we got that forecasting solution out to the market, new users coming into the platform. And a lot of them were marketing users. And so that was interesting to us at first. We're like, why is field marketing coming into Clari? Why are VPs of marketing come into Clari? And around that time, which is probably 3-4 years ago now, you started to see the rise of the CRO job title, and you started to see more of this push for a connection between not just sales ops and marketing ops, but revenue operations. And I think the reason why is that marketers started to see, hey, we've got to really understand what's going on kind of downstream in the funnel in a way to better guide what we're doing top of funnel. And so that's when we really, all the lights kind of went on for us. Like, hey, if we can not only serve sales teams, but also connect that up with what's going on in marketing, we can really drive, much better pipeline execution across the whole funnel. And a lot of that's the Clari story, but in the broader market, that's really what's been happening, regardless of the technology that you're using. I think teams have realized that it's not sales ops, not marketing ops, it's revenue ops, and it's really a revenue process that we're running. We talk about here, revenue is not just an outcome, it's a process, and you need to think about it and measure it and improve it and collaborate on it.
Yeah. And through some of the prior conversations we've had, you've made a note of the CRO title, and you just even referenced it now. This is an evolving role. Like, it's fortunate enough to have this as my title right now. I love being the CRO at G2. It's a newer thing though, right? I think you've shared how you've observed this evolution, which to me signifies like kind of the up leveling of the role / evolution of what they're expecting in the role. And it feels like you're seeing this naturally, organically within the product, the platform that you're building, where like now all of a sudden revenue leaders are asking marketing to be in the forecasting tools, to understand the forecast, to understand their impact. Is that a fair statement? Would you agree with that, where the CRO roles have been evolving, the expectations have been evolving? Could you share a little bit on that?
Yeah, I think so. So as not a direct practitioner, I'm observing this from what we see in our customers. Certainly, you still generally have a chief marketing officer or VP of marketing that's, a little independent of the CRO. But absolutely what has happened is the collaboration and communication between those two roles, and especially on the systems side, the merging of those systems has really accelerated over the last few years. And I think it's just, there's that synergy. Like I was saying, we initially saw field marketing were some of the first users that we saw coming into the system, because they would look and they'd say, hey, I remember vividly a conversation with a large enterprise customer where we got on a call and there was the field marketing person for the Southeast on the call. And I'm like, why is this person there? And she had gone into our Clari and observed that the out-quarter funnel for the Southeast sales team was way below what it needed to be. And she wanted to help, right? By giving the visibility into this information, she realized, hey, I can come in and maybe help drive some events to help these folks with their pipeline. And then it circles back the other way too. So, kind of providing that information from the revenue side can drive better marketing programs, and getting more information about what's going on top of funnel can drive better sales execution. So that synergy, I think, is what's driving it.
Yeah, and I love that example. I'm a former field marketer myself in the very early days of my career. Lived in sales offices, was kind of always thinking about generating pipeline, but did not have the visibility. Like had to go, maybe I'm just dating myself a little bit, but had to go rep by rep by rep and ask, hey, how's things looking? Are you going to hit your quarter? But the ability to have that true transparency, access to the data, I would agree, is really revolutionizing the way that sales and marketing can work together and see the mutual impact. When you look at all the conversations that you've had with global CROs, their marketing peers, what are those key takeaways? What are the couple things that you would want everybody who's listening in to say, this is best practice, or you got to stop doing this?
Yeah. So, we'll talk a little bit about habits. Habits are a lot of trendy books and things right now that are out there on habits and how to build them, kind of how to break bad habits. I'd say that, best practice for us is really taking a step back and understanding how you really want your whole revenue process to work. So we talk about this idea of revenue cadences, and the cadences are happening whether you are actively managing them or not. So they just might be really bad cadences if you're not proactively managing how your rep and manager one-on-ones take place, when they take place, how you think about your forecast calls, what the content of those forecast calls are, when are they focused on in quarter, when are they focused on out quarter, what is your cadence around looking at your customer health, and especially in this day and time that we're in right now, thinking about your renewals. So I think best practice number one is just being intentional about putting in place the cadences that are going to help your business be successful. So that's, I would say, is number one. Number two is, we believe pretty strongly here internally and with our customers about providing the right level of visibility to help drive accountability. So once you have those cadences in place, you want to provide every member of the relevant go-to-market team across sales and marketing with the visibility and insights that they need to, one, make decisions and really, drive their business forward. And second, to put in place, the right accountability so that manager and rep are on the same page, manager exec on the same page, sales and marketing on the same page. So, if I were really to sum it up in two things, I think those would be the two best practices. And maybe you only need those two, right? But you have to do them, and make sure that you've got all the right pieces in place.
Yeah, I think this is a common theme that we've talked about in a couple of the conversations on the program, is having that visibility, having a process to facilitate the conversation, to have those tough discussions of why are we not, why is the marketing influence pipeline not where it needs to be? Why are we not converting the great opportunities that you're handing over to us? What's the broader so what? I think one of the things that you've advocated for that really stuck out to me was kind of at a concept level, how do you prevent the revenue leakage? Right.
Yep.
At every step of this process that you're advocating for, that creates a really great internal partnership. Could you share more about how you think about revenue leakage, and where are you seeing the biggest trouble spots for companies to be mindful of?
Yep. Yeah. Good question. So we talk about, if you've seen some of our LinkedIn posts and things, revenue leak is the biggest problem hiding in plain sight. That if you think about, and one way to think about it, if you're not familiar with the term, it's that revenue basically that your company should be getting because there is value and need for your product or service, but you're not getting it because it's somehow falling out along the way of the funnel for various reasons. And so I would say the first two things I would talk about would be getting back to, that's one of the reasons why we talk so much about the importance of these revenue cadences. So one way that you prevent revenue leak is putting the right cadences in place to that are aligned with the rhythm of your business to make sure that you're looking at everything that you need to look at and driving accountability around it. Second is that visibility. So visibility obviously feeds into the cadences. You want to provide access to the right information for the right people so that they can make the right decisions and kind of see what's leaking. And the third one that I would add gets into, I think, another topic we're going to talk a little bit about, which is really integrations and bringing products and data together for better visibility. So most of our viewers, listeners have a wide range of products in their sales and marketing tech stacks. And so what can often happen is that things are happening in one part of your tech stack, even kind of your funnel, and it's not being seen or connected to another part. And so, revenue leaks out. So for example, maybe a lead comes in through one system and, the best SLA is to respond to that within 3 hours in order to, keep, this is a kind of a classic marketing one, I guess, to keep the deal moving forward. And somehow that connection isn't made with the SDR using their sales engagement product for whatever reason. And you haven't connected the dots there, and the revenue leaks, it's gone. Another one getting further down funnel is a customer raises an issue on a call, and that call was recorded, it was transcribed, but no system went in. And we've been focused on this from a GPT perspective. It's a really interesting early use case for large language models. A problem with your product was mentioned on that call. The account manager doing their best, they're swamped, they write it down, but forget to send the email follow up to the team to follow up on it. And boom, the account churns 3 months down the line, let's say. And, better integration of systems would mean that in our case, what we're doing is we're using GPT to find the key action items or problems that are identified on that call, and then feeding that back into, in our case, feeding it back into Clari, so I'm able to see, hey, this account health is not what I thought it was. And so to prevent revenue leak, I want better cadences, I want visibility of data, and then I want all the systems to be connected together. And so that's what I would encourage everyone to be looking really carefully at.
I'm really, really glad that you brought up that last part. I think it's a passion point for me, both as a user. We have a lot of different technologies that we connect together. So we put a ton of time and effort into making sure amazing solutions are connected really well with other amazing solutions. And I know with the announcements that you guys had about a month ago now, integrations were a part of that. It was pre-thought out. It was like, hey, how do we ultimately help all of our end users? And there were a couple where they were non-traditional. Maybe it's just me thinking this way, but to have a revenue enablement platform, thinking about use cases for how to support marketers, how to support customer success representatives as well, I think was great. Can you share a little bit more about how do you think about the holistic customer perspective? Who are you partnering with? Why are you partnering with them to help, really create a better revenue engine for your marketing and sales clients?
Yeah. Yep. So we are at Clari, I think we're very practical people, and we focus very much on customer needs, a lot of customer interviews, a lot of customer conversations. And so we're, when we think about integrations, it's not just, hey, integrate with Slack or, whatever the current thing is that everyone needs to integrate with. We try to look for, we do that, but we try to look at the deeper integrations that really are going to impact our customers' revenue. And so customer success is a good example of that. So with Gainsight has a lot of really valuable information about customer health that, to the question we just talked about a few minutes ago, if that information is not surfaced in a place where people can act on it, CS reps are doing that within Gainsight, but in the context of a forecasting call, for example, with Clari, if senior management can't see, hey, decent chunk of our renewal pipeline this quarter in the last week just moved into a yellow state from a green state. Let's be all over that. That's a extremely high value use case that's much more important than, potentially, I don't know, some kind of Marketo connector or something like that. Again, not that that's not something you need, but we focus on those high value use cases. Another one example would be, with intent systems, with something like a G2, it's a deeper level of insight potentially about customer intent if someone is going in and looking at Clari reviews or comparing us to another product. That's a higher priority potentially and more important signal than, say a web visit or a form filled out or something like that. And we want to get that information into what we call our RevDB so that we can drive the cadence, drive the visibility, and act on it. So yeah, that's where we focus.
Like that, if I think about this from a CMO, CRO perspective, you're focused on what is the primary outcome. And likewise, hopefully all of us that are, listening into this, like we are thinking about the outcome, and then we're making decisions on campaign strategy, the tech to enable driving that outcome, tracking if we're hitting that outcome. It makes a ton of sense. There was one thing that you mentioned before, though, that I want to double back to really quickly: AI.
Yep.
I think that's where exciting to see you and many other companies that are putting announcements out there. You just alluded to a way that you're leveraging AI to create efficiency, right? And that it was such an interesting example I had not thought of. I'm going to talk to my chief product officer now about this one of like, geez, if this can pull out and not put the onus on the employees to always be the one connecting the dots and taking all the actions, but to like just make this easy. Oh, wow. Heard something here. Product should hear about this. Let me send it over here on your behalf, or at least build the email prompt. You review it, you send it. How else do you think AI is going to impact, sales, marketing, like anything else that's like really top of mind for you that you would want others thinking about right now?
Yeah, I mean, clearly the impact is going to be profound and play itself out in very significant and dramatic ways over the next few years based on what's happening. So I would look at it maybe, I know we don't have a ton of time left here, around just what's nearer term. So we're focusing on some of those, call them almost no-brainer type use cases that GPT and large language models are really good at. So the one that I talked about that is intriguing is one that we did early on. Another is just being able to do email responses. I'm sure people have seen that, but if you have a chain of either a positive sales engagement where you're trying to get a deal done, or even a negative customer success experience, when we run that through our models and marry it in with GPT and say, hey, draft an email response for the rep or for the CSM, really good at that, right? So focus on those early kind of low-hanging fruit use cases that drive a ton of value. And then, at the same time, so I'd encourage people to look at those first in their tech stacks. And then there's going to be some really interesting longer term stuff. We're working on also some, I'd say, higher value, longer term problems as well that you're going to see play out over the next couple of years for the people who are, moving aggressively in the space that we're really excited about.
Nice. So, Kurt, we've covered a lot of ground in the history lesson of where this kind of whole industry has been evolving, marketing and sales relationships. I'd be very curious about a key final thought or two, right? As we wrap for today, what are the one or two things that you want folks thinking about as they adjourn on their days?
Yeah, I think my final thought is that for almost everyone, and especially for tech companies who are probably the majority of the people who are viewing this, it's a challenging environment, and it's like nothing else that a lot of us have seen in a really long time. But it's in times like this and in environments like this that I think you really kind of see what you're made of, both as an individual and as a company. And so, one of the things I'd say is that I think, coming out of this and during, over the next months, years, those teams, those CROs and CMOs or, SVPs of sales and SVPs of marketing that can really focus on collaborating on, and in our terminology, we talk about governing revenue more effectively, are going to, one, weather the kind of current environment that's really challenging, but come out of it in a way where they're very strongly positioned for growth. So I think it's a great time to work on this motion and work on this muscle, and probably no better time than there has been, because it's going to pay off now in helping you maintain and grow your existing revenue, as well as position you for this next time of growth.
Love that, Kurt. For all of us, I think we're all in the same boat, trying to continue growing at a really good rate, protecting against revenue leakage, thinking about the process, connecting the systems to deliver the right outcomes. It's great advice.
Yep.
Kurt, thank you again so much for joining us, and hope everybody has a fantastic rest of their day.
Thank you. It's been awesome. Great to have been on.